Can get a little Photoshop out of my chin. And I have a looser fitting top today than I did the first week. But those of you who have been here before to the previous demos, I do a quick map of the face and then an eye, because I feel like the eye is the most important thing on the face. If you can get the eyes right, you can fudge the nose and the mouth a little, but if you have the eyes wrong, your portrait is never going to be, I think people are going to say, oh, that's nice. So I'm going to start off by, this is just plain old paper. I'm going to start off by showing you the map of a face. It's just very basic, and everybody's face is different. Have the egg shape, and if I was doing this in watercolor, I do it very lightly. You don't do anything dark with watercolor. You don't commit to any line until you have everything straight. You could commit to lines all you want if you're doing a landscape, but a portrait, if you want to get a likeness, you better get it right with your drawing. Because once you get the paint on there, you really can't alter it too much. So anyways, this is the oval. The eyes would be basically centered in the middle of the face. And even though it doesn't look like it, though, I'm an Indian painter, and Indians have a shorter space for their forehead. So their eyes sit a little higher, their orbits sit a little higher in the skull. So this is where the eyes would be. The nose would be approximately in between the center of the eye and the chin, and the mouth would be in between that. And like I said, sometimes people have a wider divot and shorter chin, but in general, this is how the face would be. You could put a little oval just to get it started with a little divot there, and you get the shape of the lips. Now this is the orbit. This is the orbit of the eye. This is the actual skull, the opening in the skull. The eyeball would be much smaller, but by doing the orbit, you know where some of the folds are going to be under the eye and the upper eyelid. It gives you a general idea of the anatomy of the face. And then you're going to put your little oval, almond shape. And if you start with this, you will get the eyes even. Now I'm looking at an angle, so could be a little distortion. Any of you who draw with a pad on your lap or on a table, when you're drawing like this, you're not seeing the full front of it. You're seeing a distortion. You really have to have it perpendicular to your face. Otherwise, you're going to get distortion. Just like if I paint this at an angle like this, which I'm going to try to keep this viewable to all of you. And I will end up with a little distortion. I could see now that I am a little high on the left side. It's because I'm working at an angle. But when you're painting, you should try. Watercolor is difficult to paint upright. I'm going to do it today. But you can do it. You should try to keep it perpendicular to your face and stand back every so often. I find with watercolor, more than with any other medium, I need to jump back because I need to see how the colors play with each other. You have to paint fast with watercolor. It moves, it bleeds, it blossoms, so you really have to move fast. It's unlike oil and pastel that just sits there and you can move it around and blend it. Watercolor is a very fast-paced medium, unless you're doing real little dibs and dabs and layering, but I don't have time to show you that type of watercolor painting. I'm going to show you quick, splash, and it's going to be, it won't be done, but you get a general idea. But anyways, I could see that I'm off on this face. This eye is a little high, and that's because I was looking over to the side. And now I'm going to show you one of the important principles of painting an eye. And those of you who've been here, other sessions, you could take a little nap because you've seen it before. All right? Now, I'm just going to draw with a magic marker, and it's not going to give the same effect that a light pencil would give once you put paint on it. And it's not like oil. Once I start putting watercolor on this, it's going to be a little weak. It's not like oil or pastel or any of the other mediums. It'll be weak, and it has to be layered unless I pick up globs of this paint and get it on there. But I'm going to do my best. Now, normally, like I have just told you, you do the orbit and the eyeball, but since I've done a million eyes, I just don't even need to do that. So, there's your basic eye. This is the little canvas. And there's the bottom of the lid. And the eyeball, iris would be there. And I'm just going to make a suggestion of the pupil. All right? And over here would be if you're doing watercolor and you really want to be a purist and not use any kind of white paint afterwards, you'd put a little bit of masking fluid, which is this stuff here. It's almost like a rubber base. You paint it on. And I usually use a Q-tip. You ruin brushes if you use brushes with this. And paint a little white there. Then you can get splashy, and then when your painting is dry, you pull that off like a rubber cement, and your paper is pure white. Or if you make a mistake, or if you're lazy or in a hurry like I always am, you can buy this handy little stuff. This is an opaque white paint, but it's especially made for watercolor. And if you're using Arches paper, which I will be painting on, this is just Strathmore, it's cheaper. And this isn't a watercolor block. But this comes in a block where the edges are all glued together so that you can, before you start your watercolor painting, you need to douse it with water in a nice soft brush, get it all wet. That kind of releases the sizing so that it accepts the watercolor a little better. I'm not doing that today because of time constraints, so I'm going to just paint directly on the arches, and whatever happens, happens. But Arches does have their own brand of white, and you really can't tell the difference when you paint white on top of that. On this painting here, this needs a little more work. This is my daughter a few years ago. But I tried with the masking with this, and I didn't like the shapes that I did ahead of time. So I painted over the masking. I took the masking off and painted over it with some difficulty, because once you pull that masking off and you've already done your painting, you get a little hard edge. So it took a little bit of coaxing, but people say that watercolor is not forgivable. It really is. There's almost nothing you can't correct with watercolor, unless you spill some Payne's gray in there or ivory black. It's really forgivable. Even the dark browns, you can get them out with a little scrubbing of the brush and a little Q-tip or a soft paper towel. But I use this on the lights, and I thought it was very effective, and it doesn't look like it's sitting on top of the paper. So, and this, of course, was painted upright. That's why there's all the drips. But I kind of like the drips, so I blew them down. And you can make your work look a little more interesting with a straw. You have a little more control, and you can blow streaks here and there if you want that loose effect. So now I'm going to start painting this eye real quickly. I'm going to take the biggest brush I have, and first of all, the white of the eye is never really white. Now I'm going to wet this area so that I can drop paint right in it. This helps get rid of that sizing too. Oops, I didn't want that, but. And this is a type of easel that drops back. It has a little contraption on the back, and it drops back. Got a problem, Bob? Okay. So anyways, I've got this all wetted. I'm going to take a little Payne's gray and mix it on my palette very sloppily. You don't want any clumps of paint because that doesn't look good. And I'm going to very quickly color in some shadows on the top of this eyeball. Now this isn't going to be the #1 type of eyeball. It's just for demonstration purposes. And I think I'm going to throw a little lavender on that. Let's see, I think I have lavender here. Maybe I didn't put any on here. I think I forgot the lavender. Oh dear. That's not good. Well, I guess I've got to mix green and blue. Red and blue. to get a little lavender. Looks pretty rough, right? And I like to keep a cloth here just so I can dab off some of the excess water. See how fast you have to work, though? Now that looks pretty dark, but it really isn't. Now I'm going to take some blue and get some blue on her eyes. This is pretty blue. This is very dark, unbelievable blue, but I will tone this down eventually. I'm going to leave a little spot for a light. And the principle I want to get across to you is the fact that when direct light hits an eye, it has a crisp white light where it hits the eye, which is right about over here. It goes through the liquid of the eye and comes out on the bottom, illuminating the inside of the iris. So you get a glow over here and a crisp light over there. And I'll do my best to convey that right now. And with watercolor, you can pick up almost any color and drop it into a wet area, and it looks like it's supposed to be there. It just looks great. That's one thing I love about watercolor. Now I'm going to take a little orange and see if I can't tone that blue down a little bit. And maybe a little Payne's Gray. Payne's Gray and orange. I'm going to have to clean this palette out pretty quick because it's getting dirty already. One thing about watercolor, you've got to keep your paints clean and your palette clean. See how that toned that down nicely? And now I have to, oh, and this is a wonderful water bucket. It's got ridges on one side and a place to hold brushes on the other, and holes all the way around the outside. I love this container. I use it for my acrylics too. And there's always a shadow right under the eye. And in the glow on the bottom here, I always like to put a slightly different color, like a lavender. I'm going to put just a hair of pink there, just so it's not pure white. Kathy, you want to sit down now and we'll get ready to start? Yeah, that's all right. And now I'm going to pick up some really dark black. This is ivory black. Just so I usually don't go straight from the paint into the watercolor paper, but I needed a nice dark black, and this is how I'll get it.
Wow.
But you can see this glow down the bottom here, and you can continuously pull paint out. Now this is a very soft brush, but I have some brushes here that are a little shorter and stubbier, and you call them scrubbers, and they'll take even more paint out. You just wet it with clean water, and I have some other clean water here. I'll be changing the water in no time. But you can see how that, what do I do with my brush now?
Judy, do you use cold press most of the time?
I like the cold press. The hot press is, you don't get, I don't know, it's not as forgiving as the cold press. So now I'm going to take a little brown, just so that you can see that this eye is realistic. Just put a little brown around the edge. And then there's, of course, the lid. But each little thing you do when you're painting a picture, a portrait, each little thing you do makes it closer to looking human. And sometimes it's not exciting. It doesn't get really exciting until the last, say, hour of a portrait. Now with Noah over there, he gave me a lot of trouble long after he was gone. Over the weekend, I worked on him, and I moved the eye 3 times, or 4 times. The right eye once, the left eye 4 times, and then I finally got smart. And let's see if I have that here. I drew the eye in the wrong place, and I drew it on the vellum paper. And then I found the position that really looked right. I moved it from down there, up here, and then you gradually find a place where the eye is supposed to be. And that was the last time I painted that eye. I was my head was about to explode. You know, I love to paint, but when there's too much frustration, it's not fun. And one of the things I'd like to convey to you is do what you can to keep yourself from getting frustrated. I got frustrated because I wanted to have it ready for today. Otherwise, that would have gone right out the window. I was so mad at it. And so make yourself comfortable when you're painting. Get everything situated. That's why I took so much time situating everything. I don't want to be going over here, dripping over here, going over here to my water and here to my brushes. Everything should be comfortable. And if you have a bad back or if you have bad feet, make sure you've set yourself up. Take the extra half hour or hour to set yourself up so that you don't fail. Because you could be in the middle of the zone and something bothers and you got to stop. So that's a shame. When you're in the zone and you have to stop, not a good thing. But anyways, this is basically the eye. And this is what I want to convey to you, this bright light here. Now, if I was doing this with oil, I would mix titanium white with a tiny little bit of yellow. And right now, I'm just going to take a tiny little bit of yellow and make just a little glaze on that. Oh, and another thing you should have is a little spray bottle, something small like this. You don't have to bring a big spray bottle. And keep your paints wet. Now, I have a little skin on my yellow here, so I'm not able to get that yellow the way I want. And like I said, make it easy on yourself. Keep those paints wet. Now I'm just going to put just a little yellow on there, and it bounces off the blue and makes it an even brighter contrast. So anyways, that's your basic eye. Just remember, make this a very crisp line, and sometimes they're square, sometimes there's many of lights. If you have a lot of lights in a room, I mean, if you were looking at my eyes right now, you'd probably see 20 lights bouncing off, but you don't want to do that in a portrait. 1 or 2 lights is fine. It's not about that, but it does give it life. Without that, it's dead. I mean, it's not a great eye, but with it, it's got some light. And just remember, it hits on the outside of your iris and pupil, goes through the liquid and illuminates the bottom. It's like a cone in there. Illuminates the bottom, and you could see it right through the outside covering of the eye. So without further ado, I'm going to start Kathy's portrait, but I would like to mention a few things that I have on my clipboard because I can't remember. First of all, there's a little fish bowl on our welcome table, and this is partially to benefit our scholarship. And we give a scholarship to a needy kid that qualifies, and it's going into an art-related field. We all work real hard all year trying to build up that scholarship fund, so we'd appreciate that, anything you could give. And this club was started in 1937, and we're about to celebrate our 75th anniversary, just like the Vero Club did last year. And watch the papers for news of an event. We're going to have a special show with past presidents. So we're going to have some of their work, and we're trying to find some of the ones that are deceased so that we could have those represented too. And I think we have 4 or 5, 6 presidents that are still part of our membership right now. And we do have a show coming up October 13th right here. in our clubhouse, and the Art Center will be open also. That's from 10 to 4. And we're going to be part of a studio tour in February 9th, day after my birthday. February 9th, there's going to be about, I think, between 10 and 12 of us. In fact, the meeting is tonight at my house. And we'll have maps and, all kinds of information and refreshments at our studios. And you'll hear more about that in the newspapers, or put your email down there, and we'll do a little email blast just before the studio tour. And those of you who are interested in the club, we have monthly meetings the second Tuesday of the month from about 12:30 to 3. And you learn what the club is about. But the Art Center here and this area is open Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays from 11 to 3. And there's always somebody manning the desk. And they can answer any questions you have if you're interested in membership. And I am the club secretary and chairman of the Art Center. So I take notes, I type fast, and I help out. And I have a lot of great people that help me out. Kathy Costa is a co-chair, and Ann Emery is, where are you, Ann? Oh, Ann Emery is our bookkeeper for the Art Center. And we all pitch in, and we have a good time, and I hope you have time afterwards to take a look at all the great art back there. So I'm going to start drawing with Arches, 300-pound rough watercolor paper. This you really don't have to tape to a surface. If you get a lighter watercolor paper, like 130-pound, you should really tape it to a surface, because once you wet it down, it gets ripply, and it'll dry nice and flat if you tape it to something. But I find that, even if you don't tape it to something, it's pretty flat. I mean, you could still use it, you mat it. If it's a big piece, it might be a problem, but those I didn't tape, and they'll be fine once they're matted. So I use a number 2 pencil and a kneadable eraser. These are wonderful erasers. They don't leave hardly a mark, though you want to shy away from erasing as much as possible, especially if you already sized your paper. But if you need to erase, it's here. And if you really need to erase, I have a plastic, well, I guess I didn't bring it, plastic eraser. Here it is. This is a little gentler than this one, but on the real tough ones, I'll go to whatever I have to. So, without further ado, let me set you up, Kathy. I won't be on the mic back here.
I have to get off, this chair's been moaning.
Has it?
Oh.
All you need
She's
is
an artist. She's a very good artist.
a cigarette holder
The
now.
second, yeah, oh, what a good idea.
Cigarette holder.
Oh, I don't smoke.
How about some fishnet stockings? How does that look?
Glass of wine.
Oh, glass of wine. Does that look okay? You think, well, little poofier in the front.
Little what?
Poofier. Poofier in the front.
That's a French word.
Does that look about right?
Yeah.
Looks cute on you. It does. You gotta get a beret, Kathy.
Yeah. Wait a minute, I gotta fix that bottom of the beret, I don't like that. Because now you can't breathe. Better.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that enough? Did everybody see okay? Let me get this out of view. I'm going to take a picture. I'll take artistic license. I don't like the bottom of that beret. Turn that way a little bit. Just follow my hand, Kath. Okay. No. Up. Okay. That's good.
Yeah.
That's excellent. Let me just, there's a wrinkle here.
Just don't
Don't like it. You have to paint what you see, because if you try to make up the light, you're going to be wrong. So I'm going to take a picture real quick. Because the other ones, I really didn't get a picture, and I had to guess once I got home. Okay. All right. Let's move this way. You know what? I just want to move this chair just a hair.
We're all perfectionists. We understand.
Didn't think I could do that, did you? Crash! Okay.
One more.
Oh, that's good. Maybe here, good. Okay, that's good, just like that. Good. Okay, now this, normally I would take at least a couple hours to draw a face, maybe even longer for watercolor. You got to get it right, and you know when you're doing freehand, it's hard to get the eyes right, especially the eyes. But the mouth is real important too. The nose just sits there; it doesn't do much. But the mouth, if you get just one little curl wrong or one shadow wrong, you could be in big trouble. So the mouth is important too, but the eyes can look really bad if you don't get them right. Now I'm just going to figure out in this piece of paper what my negative space will be. So maybe the top will be there, maybe her chin will be here, shoulders, just so I can get a general placement. Now, once I'm finished with this painting, you can mat it and move it however you want, but at least you have a general idea. Now, this is the hat. I'm just breaking all my rules now when I said the oval. I just don't want too many pencil spaces on here, but I can see that this is not going to be big enough for you guys to see out in the audience, so I'm going to have to get bigger. I'm going to make her face a little bigger. So I will make her face this big. And the hat that big. I gotta watch out with this. Okay, I think I've got a general plan, and I think you'll be able to see it even in the back. So good, Kathy, keep that. I like that. Yeah, that's good. Now I'm going real light. I don't want to commit to the shape of the face, but I need some map of her image. Now the eyes. Another little trick. That's pretty horizontal. So I think the eyes are about like this. Now this is fairly light. You probably can't see back there. I'll try to do it a little darker, and I'll just erase. Now I can see that I've got her chin too high. So. And let's see, the beret comes out right under her eye. I want to get this beret mapped in. Now, let me see something. Eye. See now, her eyes are dead center. As I measured eye to the bottom of the chin, eye to the top of the beret, her eyes are dead center. So, let's see. Good. I'm good. All right. Now, let's see. She's a little narrower than high, so it's almost 2. Pretty good. It's all about math. I mean, you don't have to be a mathematic wizard, but you have to be able to break things down into shapes, into volume, and into measurements, just so that you can get it right freehand. But there's a shortcut. You can take a photograph, go to Staples, have it run off in black and white, the size you want, get some graphite paper, tape your photo here and have it run off real big, slip the graphite paper under, and then just draw all the important points, where the eyeballs are, where the eyebrows are, a couple little lines in the face, the shape of the head, the outline of the face. And if you really don't like to draw, if it's too tedious to you, you can get beyond that point real quick by doing that, and then get to the fun stuff. The fun stuff is painting, and that's what I'm anxious to get at now.